On today's show, the San Diego Padres take 2 of 3 against the wretched kick-the-can-down-the-road franchise Milwaukee Brewers in spite of some lackluster offense, and it's Monday, which means it's Mailbag Monday, answering some of your questions.
You are Locked On Padres, your daily San Diego Padres podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of Locked On Padres podcast, which is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day for Monday, June 9th. As always, I'm your host, Javier Arraez, the San Diego Padres fan from New Jersey, and I've been covering the team for almost 6 years now, not just for this podcast, but also for various outlets, including, chief among them, justbaseball.com. Go check that out. And also, check out our sponsor for today's show, Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Today's show, guys, we are breaking down a lot. First, we're doing a series recap of each of the game, the biggest notes from this Brewers weekend series. Not exactly the most exhilarating series, a nice prelude to what we got cooking this week, right? And then we're going to go over my thoughts on the Padres offense, specifically what's been the biggest thing that they've changed with, I think, this year as opposed to last year. And then we're going to get into a little bit of mailbag, guys. So without further ado, let's get into it. Firstly, let's start with yesterday's game. The Padres win the series on this one by a grand spanking score of 1-0. Yeah, not much going on here, folks. Really not much. Ryan Bergert, the Bergert Brigade. Let me tell you, the Bergert Brigade, let's just call him that for now. Let's call it that. The Bergert Brigade, 5 1/3 innings in this one, 4 walks, 4 Ks, no runs though, and 1 hit allowed. Look, I think that the Padres at all, I'm still worried. We talked about this on a previous show. I'm still mightily worried about where their rotation is going to be, considering the kind of, how we're not exactly trusting this team usually when it comes to pitching injuries and whatnot. Like, where is Michael King? Where is Yu Darvish? What's the health on that? But in terms of how they've looked ever since the Michael King injury, I think that they look pretty dang good. Like, in all things considered, I think that they've been great. Bergert has produced. Kolek has produced. Randy Vasquez has produced. It's not going to last forever. I think these guys are going to get roughed up at some point, but they have certainly done their job to carry the load ever since those guys got injured. So I love it. I'm very excited about that. But that wasn't really the big story of this game. It is another Manny Machado home run. He had 2 this weekend, and that gives them the lead, and that's basically it, right? There's not really much else to say, aside from Yuki Matsui, a player that I loved heading into this season. He has been awesome. He actually gets tagged with the win in this one. Gets into the game with inherited runners after Ryan Bergert walks a couple and gets a huge strikeout on Christian Yelich, bottom of the strike zone, got him looking, and then gets a swinging strikeout on Sal Frelick. Just a great moment for him because, as we all know and we've talked about, he has not been very good in high leverage situations in the past. In the past being just 1 year, it was his rookie season. But nonetheless, that's something he struggled with. That's why I think he's a low leverage guy, but he produced, man. Absolutely love it. The one loss of this series between the Padres and the Brewers was on Saturday by a score of 4-3. And yes, it was disappointing, but it was not disappointing for those in the Kolek kingdom, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, I got to start doing this. Got to start coming up with bits for every single player we have. Why not? Stephen Kolek in this one, though, 5 2/3, no earned runs allowed, 4 walks, 2 Ks, 3 hits. I basically think that he's just a better Randy Vasquez. I talked about it before, but I think that he is the pitcher that actually could be the real true best number 5 with a fully healthy rotation. I think he's the one to go. I think that he's just a better version. Yes, he's not getting as many strikeouts, but the ground ball stuff is incredible. And he also doesn't give up the hardest exit velo in the world. So that's really all you can ask for a ground ball type of guy and a back end starter. So I think Kolek is awesome, but the rest of the Padres team was not awesome. Bogarts, want to talk about this real quick. He hit leadoff in this game. No Tatis on Saturday. And I imagine that annoyed a lot of people. Maybe it was just Twitter, but I know a lot of people were annoyed by that. Like, how do you replace Tatis with Bogarts? Well, you can't view it in a vacuum. The reason for this is because you're not hitting Jackson Merrill leadoff, right? He's got too much ability hitting wise. You're not hitting Manny Machado leadoff. You're not hitting Jake Cronenworth leadoff. Maybe that was the other option that you could have gone with because he does have some walk skills and whatnot. But I actually don't mind it because bottom line is I am not opposed to literally anything they do with Xander Bogaerts in the lineup. They could have him hit 9th. I wouldn't care. They could have him hit 2nd. I don't care. Bottom line is I just respect and am fine with them putting him in a different spot. because this is a guy who's been disastrous this year in basically every facet of the game, with the exception of some decent running ability, and he's played some okay defense, right? Other than that, man, it's been rough for Xander Bogaerts, so I don't mind that too much. Arraez, big hit for him in this game. It actually ties the game in the top of the 9th inning, allowing Bogaerts and Tyler Wade to score. Huge double for him. He's been electric for a long time now, and he's actually been pretty good with runners on base. So shouts to him, clawing their way back in this one. Elias Diaz also has the other RBI in this game for the Padres. And then David Morgan. Unfortunately, our boy gives up a bomb to end the game to one Sir Caleb Durbin. Hate to see it, but it's not one of their best relievers. They've been using their bullpen a lot lately, and they did use it a lot in this series, so can't be too upset, but it is an unfortunate result, to say the least. All right, so unfortunate there, but Friday, their game, they kind of redeem everything. Not redeem everything, they already had won this game. I'm going in reverse order, most recent to the latest. In this game, are you feeling Randy, baby? Because they win 2-0. Not much happening in this game either, right? But Randy Vasquez in this game, 4 2/3, 4 walks, 2 Ks, 2 hits, no earned runs allowed, though. What can I say? He keeps getting away with it. I don't know at what point this is going to become an issue and he's just going to get slammed. But for now, we are enjoying it here on the Locked On Padres podcast. We are just appreciating that he's here and he's producing, and I'm happy. What can I say? Shout out to Randy Vasquez. And the Padres bullpen is the real star of this one. Wandy Peralta, Estrada, Monajon, Suarez, everybody's great there. Also, I said before, Manny Machado's second home run was on Sunday. 8th inning in this one, putting the game away. And Luis Arraez also drove in a run. So look, pretty good series for the Padres, all things considered. Not the most lightning fun series. We're not going to talk about this one in the future for sure, but great series by the Padres for them to just get the series win. And while they aren't this, absolute tidal wave as some other teams in baseball have been that are winning every single game, bottom line is they are treading water, and they are more than treading water. They are Olympic swimming through the water, dare I say, guys. But that's not all. We got to talk about my biggest thing that I think is the biggest, most obvious discrepancy between this year's Padres offense and last year's team in just a second. But first, a word from our sponsors. And that sponsor today, folks, is Wonderful Pistachios. Because if you're looking for a snack that's both delicious and nutritious, you can crack into a good source of protein with Wonderful Pistachios. Wonderful Pistachios is one of the highest protein nuts. Each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein. 6 grams. It's great. Giving you over 10% of your daily value. Plus, they're packed with fiber and better for you unsaturated fats to help keep you feeling fuller longer. I like the no shells variety as well, so go check that out. And they got different flavors too. Get snackin' and get crackin' with the snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. And just like that, everybody, we are back here, thriving and most certainly vibing here on the Locked On Padres podcast. I'm noticing on the camera that I seem to be looking a little bit off center. Let me move it real quick, maybe, and that'll change things. But whatever, we'll figure that out. New digs, as people have noted. Got a little bit of stuff. We're going to add more Padres stuff as I get my hands on it. But you can always, besides that, follow me on Twitter/X at Javipeno and Blue Sky at the same handle, JAVIIPENO. Let's talk about the biggest thing that I think I've noticed with the Padres offense this year. And it's really not all that much of a crazy thing, right? Like, not everybody's going to be surprised by this, but it is the runners in scoring position. That has been the big thing this year. And I want to compare it to last year's team, because there's a bunch of things that you have to compare with last year's team, right? Like, let's be very clear. It's a totally new team for sure, but a lot of the stars are still the same. And you have to take that into account when bringing this up, right? At this point last year, through June 9th, the Padres were hitting .263 with runners in scoring position, which ranked 12th among all teams in Major League Baseball. And if you want to go a little bit more in advance in terms of WRC+, which takes into account the ballpark, walks, stuff like that, they were hitting .106, which ranked 14th. So they were middle of the pack last year. And then here's one big difference, and we'll get to this in a second. If you go by high leverage, so not just random runners on base when you're up 1-0 or when it's the top of the second inning or anything like that, the biggest high leverage moments, these are the things that decide the game according to at least FanGraphs. In terms of high leverage at this point, through June 9th last year, they were hitting .284 in batting average terms, and they had a 125 WRC plus. They were ranked 6th and 4th, respectively, in those two categories. So they were very, very good in the big, big moments. And a big part of that was that they had some new batters. We'll get to that in a second. But compared to now, through June 9th, right? So last year, I gave you those numbers. This year, they're hitting 248 with runners in scoring position through, at this point, which ranks 17th among all teams. And in terms of WRC plus, they have an 88 mark, which ranks 24th in Major League Baseball. So they're not getting the walks. It's not like they're getting super unlucky. They're really they have not been good with runners in scoring position. And if you want to go by high leverage and not just regular runners in scoring position, it's slightly better, right? They're hitting 250, which ranks 13th among all teams, and they have a 92 WRC plus, which ranks 17th. So slightly better there. Right? We had the big hit from Manny Machado that probably boosted that this past week. I bet you they ranked a little bit lower before that hit this past week. But nonetheless, that is the biggest difference between this year and last year's team. And there's a couple of explanations for this. Number one, the Padres were historically dreadfully bad in the clutch in 2023. I'm going to keep talking about this as long as I freaking live, ladies and gentlemen. Let me tell you, I don't care. I just cannot. I will never get over that as long as I live. The fact that they were that bad with runners in scoring position, with winning games in extra innings and all that stuff, and then it completely whiplashed in 2024, right? They were first in everything. Jurickson Profar was like the best player in the league. It was unbelievable, right? They were hitting walk-offs all the time, and Jackson Merrill, right? Once you got to June, which is where we're at right now, and especially July and August, late July, early August, when he was just the 8th inning or later king. In Jackson Merrill, right? So that is one big difference, is that they were so abnormally bad in 23 that they were then so obscenely great in 24, and now they're kind of regressing to the mean. In baseball, typically, teams, when it comes to the clutch numbers, all that stuff, typically, I'm not saying this is always the case. There are plenty of players that are exceptions, right? Like Jorge Polanco, I think, is unbelievable in the clutch. Royce Lewis, I think, is another one. Francisco Lindor has been amazing the past 2 years. My boy, in runners in scoring position, all those 8th inning or later stats. But it tends to be something that as a team does not stick year to year. This is unlike other teams in other sports, right? In other sports, you can bet that James Harden's going to be bad, right? We just know this. Guess what? He was bad again this year in an elimination game. It feels like it's more of an attribute to players and teams in the other sports, not necessarily the case in baseball. So that's what might just be happening right now. The Padres are obscenely good last year. In high leverage and runners in scoring position as a whole throughout the whole year. And even up to this point, they were better than they have been this year so far in 2025. But I think that that's one explanation, right? That they're just regressing to the mean. The other thing is the most obvious, which is that there are some key players that are missing from last year's roster. That is Kyle Higashioka, David Solano, and Jurickson Profar. Jurickson Profar was the best player in high leverage situations last year by far. And then he got suspended for PEDs this year, whatever. But still, Profar, you live in our hearts forever. What an incredible, incredible season that he had. And then Donovan Solano, he was also a guy who was just a good hitter that you could have in this lineup, right? And he was a guy that played more and more, especially given that Xander Bogaerts really got hurt last year and then had to miss a bunch of time. And then last but not least, I think Kyle Higashioka also did pretty good in high leverage last year. But more importantly, he was just at least giving you something last year in terms of offense, right? Like that is kind of the biggest thing that I noticed with the Padres lineup, at least this year, because you could at least say, you know what, Solano and Profar, okay, but we still have Merrill and we're getting the better version of Tatis this year, all that stuff. But, not great, I think, for the Padres team as a whole. If you're wondering about the biggest culprits in high leverage this year, if you want to go by just the runners in scoring position, we'll start with there before we cut to break. Luis Arraez actually is the best on the team next to Tyler Wade. Tyler Wade has a 142 WRC plus and Luis Arraez 140. But Arraez, though, he's hitting 340 with runners in scoring position. Gavin Sheets, the other great player. So he's kind of made up for the loss of Profar, right? He's been the new random guy that we didn't expect that's done well, hitting 300 with a 368 on base with runners in scoring position this year. He's been great. Like he's been phenomenal. And he's not even striking out all that much, right? 15% strikeout rate in those situations compared to his 28, 30 that he has regularly. Manny Machado, 119 WRC plus. Fernando Tatis, it's not great He's hitting 276 WRC plus with runners in scoring position. Xander Bogaerts in general is hitting poorly, but he's hitting 200 with runners in scoring position. Just not great in terms of the big culprits for this Padres team. But that is the big difference, I think, between this year's team and last year's team. If you're wondering about the offense, it's just that they're kind of whiplashing back to the middle, and these things can change, right? I think that Fernando Tatis Jr. is going to get a lot better. Might get better tonight. By the way, the Dodgers, he loves doing well against the Dodgers. That can change. You've got guys like Oscar Gonzalez and Brandon Lockridge and Jason Hayward taking up a lot of plate appearances, 75, 71, and 64 WRC plus marks, respectively, amongst all those three. If left field changes at all, that could be a big difference, right? Can't really speak for Xander Bogaerts, but in general, I just think that it should go up a little bit. But remember that this is still a team that overall just was so obscenely great last year that it's probably going to regress to the middle, which isn't bad, especially given the pitching, but it's something to keep in mind. And folks, that's not it though. I got more on my mind, ladies and gentlemen. And it's because of you guys sending in your questions, which we're going to get into in just a moment. But first, everybody, we got to take one more grand spanking break and hear another word from our sponsors. And that sponsor, ladies and gentlemen, is the good folks over at Game Time. Have you ever decided at the last minute to head to a ball game with friends or family? Maybe it's game day. You suddenly realize you want to be in the stands. You didn't do happy hour like you thought you were going to do with your work friends, whatever it is. That's exactly where Game Time comes in. It's the easiest way to grab last minute tickets without the stress. With money you save on tickets, you can splurge on food, drinks, merch, or even invite a bigger group to come with you. Game Time makes it possible. Buying tickets is fast and simple. The prices actually drop the closer you get to first pitch. So again, if you're doing a last minute thing, the happy hour got canceled, someone else is taking care of the kids that night, your exam got canceled, whatever it is, they help you out. They got clear seat views and the lowest prices guaranteed that take the worry out of buying. So take the guesswork and the worry out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply, but again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices, guaranteed with Game Time. And just like that, everybody, we are thriving and vibing here into the final segment of today's show, in which we take a look at your mailbag questions. And by the way, of course, hit me up one more time, Twitter/X and Blue Sky at Javipeno, JAVIIPENO. I also do check the YouTube comments every now and then. So let's get into it. We got no time to waste, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, a question from Kaz on Twitter who says, not much here, but should we be worried about overworking our high leverage guys like Adams, Jason Adams, mainly out of the bullpen, and maybe go for more depth for the team? Go Padres with the brown and yellow heart. Love you, Kaz. Thank you so much for the very excited, upbeat questions as always. I don't think they have a choice, right? Now we're going to have to see. This is going to become a problem depending on Michael King and Yu Darvish's availability. I stand by that. I really do think that is the biggest note, I think, for the Padres and overworking the bullpen, because if that's the case, then guys like Kolek, guys like Randy, guys like Ryan Bergert are going to potentially have more starts. And we don't know what we're getting out of those guys. You saw it this weekend. None of them went like more than 5 2/3, right? So that's what could potentially happen. But the good news is that they have some good low leverage guys, right? Like Wandy Peralta has been pretty good this year, and then you've got Yuki Matsui, who's the king of the low leverage relievers this year for the Padres. So I still think that they actually have good guys to make sure that even if you can't use Suarez and Adam and Estrada as much as you would like, you do have some other really good guys in this bullpen. After what was a weird stretch in which they gave up everything, I think that they've been back, and I even like the upside of guys like Sean Reynolds, and potentially even I don't know, David Morgan. David Morgan has thrown some gas so far, so I'm not too worried about it. Next question, though, comes from the always lovely Mr. Ramamurti on Blue Sky. Hi, Javier. Question for Monday's show. How concerned should we be about the lack of slugging from Jackson Merrill this season? He seems to be not driving the ball like he did last year. And next question, is Manny Machado a lock for the starting third baseman position for the NL All-Star team? I think so. I can't see anybody else who is having a better season. Well, my good friend, that is a great question. First of all, let's talk about Merrill. I think that Merrill, he's still getting over the injury, frankly. I do. He's also still slugging okay. 468. He was just an inhuman 500 last year, right? Like he was slugging 500 and a lot of it came later. But 5 home runs in 39 games is nothing to sneeze at. Like, remember, he was hurt for a little bit and we still got time. And I just think in general, yeah, he's hitting a little bit of a sophomore slump. A little bit, by the way. Let me be very careful. The version, I think that actually this has been encouraging from Jackson Merrill, is that his sophomore slump has been just minor, right? But in terms of the average exit velocity, that has gone down to about 88 miles per hour as opposed to 90.4 last year. He's not barreling the ball quite as much. The hard hit is down. But I think at the very minimum, the batting skills are there. But in terms of the slugging, yeah, it's something to keep an eye on. It's definitely something to keep an eye on. And in terms of Manny Machado All-Star, you are correct. And there is not a biased Padres thing about this, by the way. In terms of wins above replacement, according to Fangraphs, not only is Manny Machado first among all National League third basemen, he is first in all of baseball. And I've talked about this before. He's been getting a little bit unlucky. It's finally starting to come to fruition with the home runs. You saw 2 this weekend, right? But yeah, he's going to be the guy. Defense slightly down than what we're used to, but he's still got a great glove. He's been fielding some good grounders. Alex Bregman is the only one behind him, and then Jose Ramirez, and then Matt Chapman of the Giants. I could see a world in which Matt Chapman gets hot. I could also see a world in which Austin Riley gets really, really hot, right? He's still been pretty good this year, but he's so much far behind in WAR. He hasn't had the amount of games necessarily, haven't had the amount of stuff that you like to see from him. Eugenio Suarez started off on fire. He's got 18 home runs on the year, but overall, I just think the combination, the fact that he's hitting 330 right now, which I think will go down a little bit. He's got 362 BABIP, which is, I think, the second highest among like all notable third basemen in terms of getting a little bit lucky with some of the hits. But overall, yeah, I think he's going to be the starter. Love him so much. We love you, Manny. I was wrong about the superstar version of him being gone. Next question, though, comes from, or at least comment, comes from Super Reviews for You. The issue the Padres have is their best prospects don't fit their timeline. The Padres are in need of help now, and next year even more. DeVries and Salas need until 2027 most likely. The rest of the farm is really young too. By the time the 2027 postseason rolls around, Machado will be 35, Bogarts will be 35, Darvish will be 41, Musgrove will be 34, Suarez will be 36, Pivetta will be 34 with an opt-out too, and Cronenworth will be 33. I agree. That is one of the big problems, and it is a good thing that we didn't talk about as much in the last episode that I probably should have. It is definitely something to keep an eye on, because that might mean that might be the reason that they want to move these guys. I actually think DeVries is going to be more ready before Salas is. I think Salas is going to take a lot longer to get a better feel for the bat. But DeVries, I wouldn't be surprised if like you saw him appear at the end of next year somehow, right? Like one of those late season call-ups. It wouldn't shock me because the Padres are very aggressive with their run farm system, but it's because of that reason you might say bye-bye to these guys any moment now, right? Because of the current contracts that they are on. Great point from my guy. Next comment from @PhoenixAsh927. The Padres' last 5 series are 4 wins and a split. Win the series against the Dodgers, and we're tied for first. It feels like we're struggling so hard sometimes, but we are right there for the division. Let's hope Tatis catches fire now that he gets to play his favorite opponent. P.S. Shout out to your awesome new digs. Thank you, Ash. Very much appreciate you, especially when you reach out on Blue Sky too. Look, I agree. They just haven't had like the juice that last year's team had, but they still are a pretty good team. It's a pretty good team. They're absolutely contenders. I agree with you, man. Look at it that way. 4 wins and a split. Absolutely. It was an annoying split against the Giants, sure, but overall they're winning games, and that's what you need. Next comment though, @Blake7744 says, love Arm's minor league knowledge. I also love your picture there. Looks like a Yu-Gi-Oh monster. I don't even know what that is. But I bring this up only because Arm is probably going to be back on the show to talk about the more under-the-radar back ends of the farm system and who to take, look at, right? We're going to talk about Cash Mayfield, Tyson Neighbors, Cobb Hightower, the guys that didn't make the top 100 and his thoughts on them and whether or not they could make a leap happening soon. And if they can make a leap, maybe that makes DeVries and Salas a little bit more expendable. So we're going to talk about that. But next comment from Mr. @KC_M. We need to be sellers. Sell Cease, Suarez, anyone not coming back in 26. That means possibly King and Arraez too. This team as it stands, even if we add a legit left fielder, will not win a chip this season. For me, it's about a brighter future. Trade for young, controllable talent now. Don't give up on our young guys when the 4 guys listed above could and likely will walk at the end of the season. Not worth it. I totally understand your thing, but it's way too early. I do not think they're going to be sellers regardless. I think that they got time. And teams that are worse than this Padres team have gone on really far in the postseason, right? And I just think that all you need to do is get in. And I think that you are overestimating what you can get for those guys. Dylan Cease, he's a Boris client. He's a free agent after the year. Luis Arraez, also another problem is he's going to be a free agent. Michael King, free agent. What can you possibly get that's going to retool in a big way your farm system? I don't see it. I think that they got to go out and extend Michael King. I think they got to try and get a left fielder, a decent bat to platoon with Gavin Sheets. That's what you got to do. And give up as little assets as you can. This is a team built to win now. That's just the bottom line. So buckle up, folks. Buckle up. Speaking of the farm, though, at MarkFan5835 says, I wish we still had our farm. Gore, Woods, CJ, Abrams playing with Jackson Merrill. We would be a better hitting team. Soto trade killed us. Here's what I will say about that. If you do not have Soto, the Soto trade, you do not get him in the first place. And they had a great playoff run. And number two, in 2023 or 22. And also, they do not have Cease and Michael King right now. They deserve flack for the trade and not being able to keep a player like that. But it is really worth mentioning. Like, you really got to bring it up that they salvaged it big time with the Yankees. You got to give them credit for that. So it didn't kill them as much as maybe people think. Last question, though, at Solitary Soldier. If you want to beat the Dodgers, listen up, Padres fans. Trade for George Springer to fix your left field weakness and see what the Pirates want for Paul Skeens. I just wanted to read this comment because I love it when people are like, you know how you fix your team? Get the best players in baseball. You know what I mean? Like, Springer isn't the best player in baseball, but he's been unbelievable this year. And also, unfortunately, guys, he's under like a big contract, so I don't know if that's as easily a thing to move. I have had no word that he's going to be moved. It's going to be your Brian Reynolds. It's going to be your, not even Brian Reynolds. It's going to be your Jaron Duran, possibly. And it's going to be, do they pull the trigger on Luis Robert? I don't know. But granted, Preller's done crazier things for people we didn't know were on the trade block. So crazier things have happened. But that about does it, folks, for today's edition of the Locked On Padres podcast. The only pod that may be better than the Padres themselves. Remember to subscribe to the podcast wherever you get your podcasts from. Tomorrow, it's Dodger time, baby. I'm so excited. First Dodger series of the year. And then they play them again soon, right after this. It's crazy. So this is going to be a lot of fun. Look forward to that. I might actually be, by the time you guys are watching this, on another show, a Dodgers show, talking about the series as well. If you want, like, if you just can't wait for tomorrow's recap, right? So look forward to that. But until next time, stay safe. And of course, stay faithful. My Friar Faithful homies, take care.